if you've been to a conference, you might know me as Jessica Roderick, but I just got married 2 months ago, I guess about 3 months ago now. And so my last name is different, which I'm still getting used to myself. But I'm going to talk to you guys today about sharing or getting bookings and filling your calendar when you are in a new market. So as you guys get on, just tell me hello. But basically a new market is a place where nobody knows about Norwex. And this is a blessing, but it's also difficult because nobody knows about Norwex and you're trying to explain to people that they can clean their house with just water and a cloth and they think you're crazy. But it's also a blessing because you basically the majority of people that live in my area are on my team. So it's an incredible opportunity. There are other consultants in my area, but the majority of them have ended up on my team because they've been really purposeful about growing my team locally and getting out there locally. So it didn't come easy to me. I had to figure it out. I've actually lived in 3 different states as a consultant. I also want to specify too that I do have 3 kids. They are 11, 8, and 6. I've lived in 3 different states as a consultant, and so I've had to restart my business multiple times. When I signed up, I lived right outside of DC, had a well-established friendships and groups I was in and clubs, and I felt like it was really easy for me to get my business going. Then moved to Texas. I was not intentional about getting my business going and quit selling Norwex. And then for a personal reason, picked it back up and became intentional about doing some parties. And then I moved to South Carolina after my divorce, and I knew not anybody. I knew nobody. And besides my mom and my grandma, who both refused to host a party for me. Literally, I knew not a single soul. So I had to make friends, parent 3 small children, because this was 4.5 years ago that I moved to South Carolina, and also grow my business. I was primarily doing online parties when I first started trying to get into the market in South Carolina. But I knew that not that many people in this area knew anything about Norwex at all. When you guys get on, tell me, hey, I see there's a couple people watching, but it's way more fun if you guys talk back with me. So basically I knew that there was a huge opportunity. I just had to figure out how to break into that. And I'm going to tell you that it was not easy, and I'm going to tell you everything that I did so you don't have to try to figure out for yourself. But basically the most important thing that I did was live my life. So, and I've lived a lot of different places all over the US. My ex-husband was in the military, so we lived all over. And basically I, joined clubs to make friends, or, I got involved in a Bible study, or, really involved at the church, or just did all of these different things, right? Hey, Krista. Hey, Christy. And so basically, live your life when you move to someplace new, or if you don't feel like you have a really good circle of people. And don't meet these people and live your life and create these relationships with the intention of getting them to buy Norwex from you. Do this with the intention of being a human, living your life, and Norwex will fall into the gaps of those places, because when you are passionate about what you're doing with Norwex, that's naturally going to come out in conversations. Somebody gave me really good advice when I came to South Carolina. I was like, I don't really want to be known as the crazy selling lady, and they were like, girl, just own it. You sell Norwex, and that's what you do, and that's okay. And I was like, you know what? That is right. That's totally okay. So basically, that's my first piece of advice, is to just get to know the people that are around you. The second thing that I want to say, when you're doing this, it's really important to always have at least one party of your own every single month in your calendar. This was what I did when I first started growing South Carolina. I didn't know I was supposed to do this at first. It took me like 8 months to figure this out. But I had a party at my house every month. So all the new people, not all of them, but as I felt comfortable inviting them, I would invite them over to my house. I like labeled it a Norwex bingo. And basically just taught people about Norwex. They could win prizes, and sometimes only one person would show up at my house. But that was still one person that I was able to reach that I wouldn't have been able to otherwise. So I always tell my team, you should never not have any parties on your calendar. You should never not have any bookings. You should always at least have one of your own every single month, and you can really turn that into 2. And I'm going to tell you how you can get unlimited numbers of parties on your calendar when you know not a soul. So holding 2 parties every single month of your own, and then filling the rest of those days with vendor events. It took me a long time to figure this out, so don't make my mistake. And it took me a long time to figure out how to get multiple bookings from vendor events. I literally knew nobody when I moved to South Carolina, you guys. Nobody. And now I regularly hold between 10 to 15 parties a month, and 80 to 90% of those parties still stem from those original vendor events that I did 4 years ago when I was trying to grow my business locally. So, say I want you to think of a goal. So how many parties do you want to hold every month? I always ask my new consultants that, how many parties do you want to hold every month? And people are like, oh, well, I can hold as many as I want to. Well, can you really hold as many as you want to? Because you can get that many bookings on your calendar. Their bookings are not in short supply. Brian Dill once told me when I was freaking out about not being able to get parties is there are people that want to host parties. You just have to go and find them. So hold your 1 or 2 parties of your own, and then fill the rest of those dates with a number of parties that you consistently want to hold with vendor events. So that way you can never say, oh, well, I want to have 10 parties, but I've only got 2. You should always have the number of events on your calendar that you want to have, even if it's like one-on-ones or whatever. And so fill those other dates with vendor events. That's what I did. And it was totally insane. And I was doing all these vendor events, and I was like, girl, I do not like this. I have got to figure out a way to get parties booked. It took me like 8 vendor events to figure out how to get parties on my calendar. And I'm going to tell you how I did it so you don't have to figure out it all by yourself. So when I first started doing vendor events, I had all this product and like 50 different signs all over my table. I had 3 different tables, and like it was total, like I thought it was like really great, but I didn't realize that people did not know that they could book a party. I thought that they automatically assumed that they could automatically knew they could book a party because they knew Norwex was a direct sales company. I was completely wrong. Nobody knew that at all whatsoever. Okay, so when I figured that out, I started like trying to become more purposeful with it. And I did a lot with like customer follow-up in the beginning, which is super key. But I finally figured out a way to get multiple bookings at my vendor events to fill my party calendar completely up. I will walk away from a 3-hour vendor event with 7 to 8 bookings on my calendar. Super easy. And the reason why is I switched my focus from selling product at my vendor events to selling bookings. So what does this mean? This basically means that I do have product for purchase, but just like when you go into a party with eyes of recruiting or eyes of bookings or eyes of selling, whatever you go into that with that frame of mind to do, you're going to come out of it with. And so I said, what do I need in my business? I need bookings. Selling products, great for a limited period of time, but if you want a long-term business, you need bookings on your calendar. And so I was like, how can I change my table to get multiple parties on my calendar? Hey, Katie. Hey, Sharon. So basically I was like, okay, I'm selling this product. I need to figure out how to sell bookings. So I knew from my other interactions with people that people get really excited about Norwex. I would do like the butter demo or like the chapstick demo with the EnviroCloth and the window cloth, and people would get excited. And some people would want to buy it. But then they, like people, and I would sell to a couple of people, but typically it's hard to make that connection super fast in a vendor event. And I knew I wanted bookings, and I just wasn't really like super panning out very well for me. I could sell some stuff, but I wasn't getting them to get the bookings. But I knew people were excited about the product, and I knew that if I didn't create that connection with them, that if they came across another Norwex consultant, they were probably going to host a party with them. And so how could I immediately make that turnover from creating the desire for the product into a booking? And here's how I did it. So I changed my table completely. I went from having 3 tables to having 1. And if what you're doing now is working for you, then keep doing it, sister. But basically, I went from having 3 tables to having 1. And on my table, I have like with the flow of traffic. So the first thing that they'll see is like my EnviroCloth window cloth demo with like a mirror, with like chapstick usually. In the middle of my table, literally smack dab in the middle of my table, is my calendar opened up. That's not a good example. Opened up, I'm just scrunching there, to the day, open up to the month that I want to book parties on. So like the next month or whatever. And how I organize this is I put washi tape on the days that I have available for booking parties. This is a great idea to do this with your family. Just go over these days with your family and be like, hey, like husband, like, are you gonna be out this day? Can we get a babysitter this day? So that your family is all on the same page about when you're able to do parties. And so I have this this has my doctor's appointments on and everything in the middle of my table. And then directly behind it is like around Christmas time, I would do like stockings or whatever in like a bin with a host packet inside with like pretty tissue paper coming out. And I always made it look like they were like being disappeared. It never looked like the bin was full, if that makes sense. So like if there were spaces for 4, I would only have 3. And so basically when somebody would come and I would show them the chapstick demo and they were like totally interested in Norwex, they would be like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. I'd be like, okay, well, you can get the EnviroCloth for this much, the window cloth for this much, or you can get both of them twined together in a package for this much. But I'm actually doing it special today only, where when you host a party or a demo, and I say party or demo, and I'll tell you in a second why, then you actually get to take home samples of these cloths totally for free. Basically, that looks like me coming over to your house or meeting at like a restaurant or something and teaching your friends and your family about Norwex. And you actually get to earn a ton of stuff for free too. But as long as we set a date, you get to take home samples of these 2 things today. Would you be interested in doing something like that? And so I find a lot of people just say yes. Some people are going to say no, and that's totally fine. Be like, oh, that's totally cool. Are you interested in taking them home today? And you can go over the prices with them again. But my sole focus was going to vendor events and booking parties. I did not care about selling anything. If I walked away like selling, I always sold something. If I sold nothing, it was fine. And so basically in the packet is like just a regular hose packet, whatever you put in your hose packet. Also like a cut up size EnviroCloth, a cut up size window cloth, and a little sample of the laundry detergent. And I feel like it's super key when you are doing this to have them fill out something that is going to keep them accountable. So it's a contract in their brain. So when they say, I say, do you want to host a party or a demo? And it took me a while to figure out this wording. So when I would say, do you want to host a party? That's really, they don't know me. They don't know that when I come to their house that their friends are going to have a ton of fun. They're going to like laugh like hysterically and like I'm totally good at doing parties and I'm myself. They don't know that. And so I say demo. And so I find that a lot of times people will say, oh, I won't host a party, but I'll host a demo. And I'm like, oh, okay, totally fine. We'll do a demo. So basically when they do this, I'm like, okay, well, only thing we have to do is pick a date. And it's totally fine if it's tentative. We can touch base, but here are the days that I have available. Which of these days work best for you? No, they do not fray. You can cut them up with any scissors. Like I'll use like my kids' craft scissors. Like they're totally fine. I don't even make it so there's perfect edges because I want them to have the desire for getting the full size cloths. I don't purposely make them not like straight, but I am not like super careful. I know some people use pinking shears, but I don't even do that. Like totally just like cut an EnviroCloth into half and then a window cloth into 6 pieces. Sometimes I'll cut it into 4. I don't know, just depends. And so I hand them this and I say, which of these days works best? The days that I have pink tapes on are the days that I have available for your demo. And I also, if somebody's like, oh, well, I don't know if I can have it at my house, I'll say, oh, well, you can do it at a restaurant, and I'll suggest like a restaurant per where they live. I made sure to like check that out. A lot of places you can do like have like private rooms and it's totally free. They just ask everybody if buy food. People are totally down for that. Especially like if they don't necessarily want a stranger coming into their house, and I am a stranger to them. And so I say, hey, okay, here, pick a day that you want. And so then I right in front of them, I peel the tape off. So it's washi tape, so it doesn't mess up the paper. and I'm like, okay, so what's your name? And so I write their name, and I'm like, what time do you want? And so I write the time on my calendar. So they're seeing me put the commitment that they made into my calendar, and then I also hand them, and I'll share this document. It'll be in the files. If you watch this later, it'll be in the files. I got this idea from Amanda DeSonia, I believe, but I totally like redid hers to fit me, like what I do. But basically I got this like form idea, but basically I hand them this half sheet of paper where they fill out like all of their information at the top, and at the bottom is like my host coaching like checklist or whatever. And it doesn't matter what you get them to fill out. Even if you get them to like write on a piece of paper, hey, so I just need you to fill out like your name, your address, your cell phone number on this piece of paper. And the important thing about this is so that you have their contact information, but also in their brain, it's a contract. Or you have their contact information, but in their brain, it's a contract. And so they feel like it's a more real commitment. So that's basically what I do to get parties on my calendar. It's how you can have unlimited numbers of parties in your calendar. If you don't have any vendor events close to you, even if you have to drive, further out, that's totally fine too, especially if you really are if you're in a new market, that's an incredible opportunity, and I highly suggest taking advantage of it. So basically, that's what I did. And I feel like it was super effective for me. It took me a while to figure out how to make it work. But this is what I did, and I hope this was super helpful for you. So if you guys have any questions at all, let me know. I'm super excited for this training. For you guys to get all this information from all of us Black Jackets is such a gift. I'm so excited for my team, and I'm so excited for the rest of you. And this is going to be amazing. So this is the first time we've ever done this. This is kind of a big deal. But if you have any questions at all, just let me know. Make sure to comment in the comments rather than sending me a direct message, because we want everyone to be able to get this information. And if you send me a private message, then that makes the information only stay between the two of us, where we want everyone to get the information. So I'll share that document with you guys that I get people to fill out. But if you guys have any questions, just let me know. Thanks so much for taking the time to listen. Bye.